Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely mind-bending feat of political engineering. How do you take a fragile, loosely connected agricultural state and completely overhaul it into an enduring superpower? Well, Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty figured it out, and we're going to see exactly how he re-engineered a civilization from the ground up.
Okay, let's dive right into this early Han paradox, because it's fascinating. On one hand, you've got incredible wealth. Society was so prosperous that mountains of grain were literally rotting in storehouses. Strings of copper coins were rusting because they were just too many to count. But on the flip side, the central government was essentially paralyzed. Internally, you had rebellious warlords and ultra-wealthy merchants hoarding power. Externally, fierce Xiongnu cavalry were constantly raiding the borders. The Han were literally forced to buy a humiliating peace with tribute.
To fix this, Emperor Wu needed a comprehensive blueprint. We'll be looking at the empire's hidden crises, funding the superempire, monopolizing financial lifelines, forging the Silk Road, unifying bureaucracy and ideology, and finally, his 2,000-year imperial blueprint.
Section 1. The Empire's Hidden Crises.
So how does a ruler even begin to tackle a decentralized, politically weak state when the treasury is fundamentally restricted by the system itself? Well, the root of the problem lay in a philosophy called Wu Wei, or inaction, which was championed by earlier rulers. Now, this laissez-faire policy was fantastic for ordinary people. Land taxes were incredibly low, just 1/15 or even 1/30 of a farmer's yield. Imagine paying a 3% income tax today. It created immense private wealth, sure, but it completely starved the state. You simply cannot fund massive border wars or huge public works on a 1/30th tax rate. The state was broke while the merchants were making an absolute fortune.
Section 2. Funding the Superempire. Emperor Wu needed cash fast, but instead of squeezing the poor farmers, he aggressively targeted the merchants and local elites who are hoarding wealth. So the crucial point here is how he actually got this money. He rolled out this brutal, multi-step asset washing storm. Step 1 was Suchuanmen, a heavy property tax hitting merchants at 6% and artisans at 3%. When the rich inevitably tried to hide their wealth, he brought in Step 2, Gaomin. This essentially encouraged everyday citizens to inform on tax evaders, and the penalty was brutal: total confiscation of all assets and a year of forced border labor. The informant? They got a 50% bounty of whatever was confiscated. Can you imagine that? This overnight storm absolutely devastated the middle class and above, instantly filling the emperor's war chests.
But a one-time cash grab isn't a sustainable economic policy. He needed a permanent revenue stream. Enter the Junshu, or equitable delivery system. Before this, local regions sent tributes all the way to the capital, which was insanely expensive and inefficient. Under Junshu, local tributes were converted into marketable local goods. The state transported these goods itself and sold them at a premium in regions where they were scarce. It was a brilliant piece of modern state macro control, essentially acting like an ancient Amazon fulfillment network. It cut out local shipping costs and allowed the central government to profit as the ultimate middleman.
To complement this, he introduced Pingjun, or price stabilization. State officials would buy up surplus goods when prices were low and release them back into the market during shortages. By combining Jinzhu's logistics and Pingjun's market control, Emperor Wu essentially nationalized the entire supply chain. He absolutely crushed private market monopolies. Almost overnight, the state became the biggest merchant in the empire.
Section 3. Monopolizing the financial lifelines.
Extracting market wealth was really only phase 1. He needed to control heavy industry and the actual money supply itself to prevent warlords from ever rising up again. In 119 BC, he enacted the salt and iron monopolies. He set up 48 state-run offices across the empire. The state supplied the equipment, and there was a total, unforgiving ban on private production. The penalty for private sales? An iron fetter permanently locked onto your left toe. Seriously, your left toe! By taking over salt, an absolute physiological necessity, and iron, the core of heavy industry and weapons, he systematically stripped rebellious local lords of the wealth they historically used to fund their uprisings.
Now, what's really interesting here is this exact number, 3.33 grams. Why does this matter? Because this is the exact weight of the 5 Wuzhi coin, established in 115 BC, Before this, local lords minted their own terrible, lightweight coins, which caused rampant inflation. Emperor Wu banned all local minting and set up a central minting office. By creating a standardized, high-quality 3.33-gram coin, he unified the currency, stabilized the economy, and centralized financial power entirely in his own hands.
Section 4. Forging the Silk Road.
With a stable, massive financial base secured at home, the emperor could finally look outward. Notice the rapid synchronization going on here. While Zhang Qian was sent out on a mission to the west in 138 BC, legendary generals were pushing back the Xiongnu. The Hexi Corridor military campaigns in 119 BC happened in the exact same year as the salt and iron monopolies. It was all connected. Every military push was backed by a massive domestic financial reform.
And speaking of Zhang Qian's diplomatic journey, it was referred to with this incredible phrase, Zaokong, which translates to chiseling the void. Zhang Qian traveled into the vast unknown, reaching all the way to places like Persia and Bactria. It was described as, well, literally chiseling a hole through the void of the unknown, forcefully connecting the isolated Han civilization with the rest of the incredibly distant Eurasian world.
This chiseling created the famous Silk Road Exchange. The Han exported silk, advanced metallurgy, and canal technology. In return, they imported things that changed Chinese daily life forever: grapes, carrots, spices, alfalfa, and most amazingly for the military, the legendary orchestrated teki, or blood-sweating horses. This trade network, protected by newly established commanderies in the northwest, created a tributary system that deeply enriched both the culture and the military might of the Han Dynasty.
Section 5. Unifying bureaucracy and ideology.
Now, a massive machine stretching across continents needs a loyal, highly capable crew to run it. So Emperor Wu established the Charju system, a meritocracy where officials recommended talent from the ground up based on ability, not birth. And this brilliantly illustrates his ruthless pragmatism. Just look at the people he elevated. Wei Qing was a former slave who became the supreme military commander. Huo Kubing was an illegitimate child. Bu Shi was a literal shepherd who donated his flock to the state and was made a chancellor. Jin Midi was a captured enemy Xiongnu prince who became a trusted regent. Emperor Wu genuinely didn't care where you came from, only what you could do for the state.
But talent alone isn't enough, right? You need loyalty. So he adopted the policy to revere only Confucianism. This was an ideological masterstroke by a scholar named Dong Zhongshu. He tied the concept of a divine, unified empire directly to a national academy, the Taishui. If you wanted a government job, you had to study there, which meant you had to adopt this exact unified Confucian mindset. It was essentially the ultimate ancient form of corporate culture and ideological alignment. It created a massive bureaucracy that all thought the exact same way regarding loyalty to the emperor.
Section 6. The 2,000-year imperial blueprint.
Now, these endless wars and massive projects took a heavy toll, eventually halving the population and forcing Emperor Wu to show incredible political elasticity. In his later years, he actually issued the Luntai Edict, apologizing to the empire and pivoting state policy to rest and agricultural recovery, which saved the dynasty from collapse. Yet his structural legacy endured. Let's move to Ainsao and see how this builds into the ultimate statecraft matrix. You can see the sheer genius of this four-wheel drive system. He took wealth from merchants to create state market control. He took finance from local lords to nationalized heavy industry. He changed strategy from passive defense to controlling Eurasian trade. And he changed ideology from divided aristocratic thought to a unified merit-based bureaucracy. Every single gear in this machine perfectly turned the others.
Emperor Wu's blueprint was so effective that it fundamentally became the operating system for Chinese dynasties for the next 2,000 years. It's a breathtaking achievement in statecraft, but it came at the cost of immense centralization and control. Which leaves us with a provocative final thought. Can the ultimate survival and expansion of a civilization ever truly justify the total, systematic control of its people and economy? It's a question just as relevant